Welcome to Warfare Codex. If you enjoy fascinating and unusual history, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories. Now, let's dive into the strange and extraordinary world of history's most unique individuals. 1. Tank Man, 1989. On the morning of June 5, 1989, photographer Jeff Widener was perched on a sixth-floor balcony of the Beijing Hotel. It was a day after the Tiananmen Square massacre when Chinese troops attacked pro-democracy demonstrators camped on the plaza, and the Associated Press sent Widener to document the aftermath. As he photographed bloody victims, passers-by on bicycles and the occasional scorched bus, a column of tanks began rolling out of the plaza. Widener lined up his lens just as a man carrying shopping bags stepped in front of the war machines, waving his arms and refusing to move. The tanks tried to go around the man, but he stepped back into their path, climbing atop one briefly. Widener assumed the man would be killed, but the tanks held their fire. Eventually, the man was whisked away, but not before Widener immortalized his singular act of resistance. Others also captured the scene, but Widener's image was transmitted over the AP wire and appeared on front pages all over the world. Decades after Tank Man became a global hero, he remains unidentified. The anonymity makes the photograph all the more universal, a symbol of resistance to unjust regimes everywhere. 2. Jewish Boy Surrenders, in Warsaw, 1943. The terrified young boy with his hands raised at the center of this image was one of nearly 500,000 Jews packed into the Warsaw Ghetto, a neighborhood transformed by the Nazis into a walled compound of grinding starvation and death. Beginning in July 1942, the German occupiers started shipping some 5,000 Warsaw inhabitants a day to concentration camps. As news of exterminations seeped back, the ghetto's residents formed a resistance group. "We saw ourselves as a Jewish underground whose fate was a tragic one," wrote its young leader Mordecai Anielewicz. "For our hour had come without any sign of hope or rescue." That hour arrived on April 19, 1943, when Nazi troops came to take the rest of the Jews away. The sparsely armed partisans fought back, but were eventually subdued by German tanks and flamethrowers. When the revolt ended on May 16th, the 56,000 survivors faced summary execution or deportation to concentration and slave labor camps. SS Major General Jürgen Stroop took such pride in his work clearing out the ghetto that he created the Stroop Report, a leather-bound victory album whose 75 pages include a laundry list of boastful spoils, reports of daily killings, and dozens of heart-wrenching photos like that of the boy raising his hands. This collection proved his undoing, for besides giving a face to those who died, the pictures reveal the power of photography as a documentary tool. At the subsequent Nuremberg war crimes trials, the volume became key evidence against Stroop and resulted in his hanging near the ghetto in 1951. The Holocaust produced scores of searing images, but none had the evidentiary impact of the boy's surrender. The child, whose identity has never been confirmed, has come to represent the face of the 6 million defenseless Jews killed by the Nazis. 3. The Hindenburg Disaster, 1937. Full story on this article. Zeppelins were majestic skyliners, luxurious behemoths that signified wealth and power. The arrival of these ships was news, which is why Sam Shear of the International News Photos Service was waiting in the rain at the Lakehurst, New Jersey Naval Air Station on May 6, 1937, for the 804-foot-long LZ-129 Hindenburg to drift in from Frankfurt. Suddenly, as the assembled media watched, the grand ship's flammable hydrogen caught fire, causing it to spectacularly burst into bright yellow flames and kill 36 people. Cher was one of nearly 24 still and newsreel photographers who scrambled to document the fast-moving tragedy. But it is his image, with its stark immediacy and horrible grandeur, that has endured as the most famous, owing to its publication on front pages around the world and in Life, and, more than 3 decades later, its use on the cover of the first Led Zeppelin album. The crash helped bring the age of the airships to a close, and Cher's powerful photograph of one of the world's most formative early air disasters persists as a cautionary reminder of how human fallibility can lead to death and destruction. Almost as famous as Cher's photo is the anguished voice of Chicago radio announcer Herbert Morrison, who cried as he watched people tumbling through the air. "It is bursting into flames. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, the humanity." 4. Dali Atomicus, 1948. Capturing the essence of those he photographed was Philippe Halsman's life's work. So, when Halsman set out to shoot his friend and longtime collaborator, the surrealist painter Salvador Dali, he knew a simple seated portrait would not suffice. Inspired by Dali's painting Leda Atomica, Halsman created an elaborate scene to surround the artist that included the original work, a floating chair and an in-progress easel suspended by thin wires. Assistants, including Halsman's wife and young daughter Irene, stood out of the frame and, on the photographer's count, threw 3 cats and a bucket of water into the air while Dali leaped up. It took the assembled cast 26 takes to capture a composition that satisfied Halsman. And no wonder. The final result, published in Life, evokes Dali's own work. The artist even painted an image directly onto the print before publication. Before Halsman, portrait photography was often stilted and softly blurred, with a clear sense of detachment between the photographer and the subject. Halsman's approach to bring subjects such as Albert Einstein, Marilyn Monroe, and Alfred Hitchcock into sharp focus as they moved before the camera redefined portrait photography and inspired generations of photographers to collaborate with their subjects. 5. Gandhi and the Spinning Wheel, 1946. When the British held Mohandas Gandhi prisoner at Yeravda prison in Pune, India, from 1932 to 1933, the nationalist leader made his own thread with a charkha, a portable spinning wheel. The practice evolved from a source of personal comfort during captivity into a touchstone of the campaign for independence, with Gandhi encouraging his countrymen to make their own homespun cloth instead of buying British goods. By the time Margaret Bourke-White came to Gandhi's compound for a Life article on India's leaders, spinning was so bound up with Gandhi's identity that his secretary, Pyarelal Nayar, told Bourke-White that she had to learn the craft before photographing the leader. Bourke-White's picture of Gandhi reading the news alongside his charkha never appeared in the article for which it was taken, but less than 2 years later, Life featured the photo prominently in a tribute published after Gandhi's assassination. It soon became an indelible image, the slain civil disobedience crusader with his most potent symbol, and helped solidify the perception of Gandhi outside the subcontinent as a saintly man of peace. 6. D-Day, 1944. It was the invasion to save civilization, and Life's Robert Capa was there, the only still photographer to wade with the 34,250 troops onto Omaha Beach during the D-Day landing. His photographs, infused with jarring movement from the center of that brutal assault, gave the public an American soldier's view of the dangers of war. The soldier, in this case, was Private First Class Houston Riley, who, after the Nazis shelled his landing craft, jumped into water so deep that he had to walk along the bottom until he could hold his breath no more. When he activated his Navy M-26 belt life preservers and floated to the surface, Riley became a target for the guns and artillery shells mowing down his comrades. Struck several times, the 22-year-old soldier took about half an hour to reach the Normandy shore. Coppa took this photo of him in the surf, and then, with the assistance of a sergeant, helped Riley, who later recalled thinking, "What the hell is this guy doing here? I can't believe it. Here's a cameraman on the shore." Coppa spent an hour and a half under fire as men around him died. A courier then transported his 4 rolls of film to Life's London offices, and the magazine's general manager stopped the presses to get them into the June 19th issue. Most of the film, though, showed no images after processing, and only some frames survived. The remaining images have a grainy, blurry look that gives them the frenetic feel of action, a quality that has come to define our collective memory of that epic clash. 7. Muhammad Ali vs. Sonny Liston, 1965. So much of great photography is being in the right spot at the right moment. That was what it was like for Sports Illustrated photographer Neil Leifer when he shot perhaps the greatest sports photo of the century. "I was obviously in the right seat, but what matters is I didn't miss," he later said. Leifer had taken that ringside spot in Lewiston, Maine, on May 25, 1965, as 23-year-old heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali squared off against 34-year-old Sonny Liston, the man he'd snatched the title from the previous year. 1 minute and 44 seconds into the first round, Ali's right fist connected with Liston's chin, and Liston went down. Leifer snapped the photo of the champ towering over his vanquished opponent and taunting him, "Get up and fight, sucker!" Powerful overhead lights and thick clouds of cigar smoke had turned the ring into the perfect studio, and Leifer took full advantage. His perfectly composed image captures Ali radiating the strength and poetic brashness that made him the nation's most beloved and reviled athlete, at a moment when sports, politics, and popular culture were being squarely battered in the tumult of the 60s. 8. The Situation Room, 2011. Official White House photographers document presidents at play and at work, on the phone with world leaders and presiding over Oval Office meetings. But sometimes the unique access allows them to capture watershed moments that become our collective memory. On May 1, 2011, Pete Souza was inside the Situation Room as U.S. forces raided Osama bin Laden's Pakistan compound and killed the terrorist leader. Yet Souza's picture includes neither the raid nor bin Laden. Instead, he captured those watching the secret operation in real time. President Barack Obama made the decision to launch the attack, but like everyone else in the room, he is a mere spectator to its execution. He stares, brow furrowed, at the raid unfolding on monitors. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton covers her mouth, waiting to see its outcome. In a national address that evening from the White House, Obama announced that bin Laden had been killed. Photographs of the dead body have never been released, leaving Souza's photo and the tension it captured as the only public image of the moment the War on Terror notched its most important victory. 9. The Horse. In Motion, 1878. When a horse trots or gallops, does it ever become fully airborne? This was the question photographer Edward Muybridge set out to answer in 1878. Railroad tycoon and former California Governor Leland Stanford was convinced the answer was yes and commissioned Muybridge to provide proof. Muybridge developed a way to take photos with an exposure lasting a fraction of a second and, with reporters as witnesses, arranged 12 cameras along a track on Stanford's estate. As a horse sped by, it tripped wires connected to the cameras, which took 12 photos in rapid succession. Muybridge developed the images on site and, in the frames, revealed that a horse is completely aloft with its hooves tucked underneath it for a brief moment during a stride. The revelation, imperceptible to the naked eye but apparent through photography, marked a new purpose for the medium. It could capture truth through technology. Muybridge's stop-motion technique was an early form of animation that helped pave the way for the motion picture industry, born a short decade later. 10. Bandit's Roost, Mulberry Street, circa 18888. Late 19th century New York City was a magnet for the world's immigrants, and the vast majority of them found not streets paved with gold, but nearly subhuman squalor. While polite society turned a blind eye, brave reporters like the Danish-born Jacob Riis documented this shame of the Gilded Age. Riis did this by venturing into the city's most ominous neighborhoods with his blinding magnesium flash powder lights, capturing the casual crime, grinding poverty, and frightful overcrowding. Most famous of these was Riis's image of a Lower East Side street gang, which conveys the danger that lurked around every bend. Such work became the basis of his revelatory book, How the Other Half Lives, which forced Americans to confront what they had long ignored and galvanized reformers like the young New York politician Theodore Roosevelt, who wrote to the photographer, "I have read your book, and I have come to help." Riis's work was instrumental in bringing about New York State's landmark Tenement House Act of 1901, which improved conditions for the poor, and his crusading approach and direct confrontational style ushered in the age of documentary and muckraking photojournalism. Thanks for watching Warfare Codex. If you enjoyed this journey into history's strangest figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing stories. See you in the next one.